I want to say something that doesn't often get said out loud. Most of us, by the time we reach senior leadership, are performing some version of ourselves at work. Not all the time, and not in every conversation, but often enough that it has become the way we move through our days. We have a leadership voice, a leadership base, and a leadership way of holding ourselves in a room. And most of the time, we don't even notice we're doing it until we do. Until one day, we feel the cost of carrying a version of ourselves we didn't realise we'd be carrying. And we wonder, just for a moment, what it might be like to set it down. This episode is about that. Welcome to The Threshold, where we say the quiet part of leadership out loud. A show about the space between who you were and who the role asks you to be. I'm Amanda Ramplin. In the last two episodes, we've been mapping the territory of the threshold, the doorway moment when something is being asked of you that you don't yet have the language for, and the trap of trying to outwork it. Today, I want to sit with the most exhausting part of being at the threshold, the part most of us are doing without realizing we're doing it. The performance. The work of looking like we've got it together when we don't. Of sounding certain when we're not. Of leading from a face we've put on rather than from a place we've actually arrived at. Because here's what I've come to believe. The performance isn't a character flaw. It's a survival strategy. It's a thing that helped get us here. It worked and it earned us our seats. And at the threshold, it stops working in a way that's hard to see from inside it. So let's see if we can see it together. Let me put you inside something for a minute. Not someone else this time, you. It's the morning of a meeting that matters. Maybe it's a senior leadership review. Maybe it's a board update. It could be a presentation to a client your company is trying to win. You wake up earlier than you needed to. You've probably already been awake on and off since 4 a.m. Not anxious exactly, probably rehearsing, going through the points you need to land, the questions that might come, and the answers you'll give. You know your work, but you can't risk being caught without an answer. And the only way to make sure of that is to have prepared every possible answer in advance. You get to the office, you greet people, your voice is warm, considered, you ask about their weekend with what sounds like genuine interest. But you're already not quite here. You're in the meeting that's about to happen and you're managing yourself. You walk into the room, you sit a particular way, you speak at a particular pace, your voice is a few degrees lower than it is at home, you modulate your facial expressions, you time your interventions, you watch the room and you adjust accordingly. When someone asks you something you don't fully know the answer to, you don't say, I don't know. You say, let me think about that and come back to you, which is a more polished way of not knowing. But you make it sound considered rather than uncertain. The meeting goes well, or at least you think it does. You leave with a small adrenaline crash and you carry it through the rest of the day. You don't notice that you've been performing. The performance has become so practiced, so automatic that it doesn't feel like effort anymore. It just feels like work. I want to stay with this for a minute because this is the part most of us miss. See, the performance isn't always visible to us. It's not like wearing a mask we know we're wearing. It's more like wearing a uniform we've put on so long that we've forgotten what it feels like to be without it. We don't notice the slight tightening of the face, the modulation of our voice, or the slight forward-leaning attention that watches every move we make. We just feel tired, and the tired in a way that doesn't match the actual work we've done. What I keep noticing in the leaders I work with is that this performance shows up in a few specific places. There's a performance of certainty. We speak as if we've already decided things we're still working out. We phrase tentative thoughts as confidence statements because confidence statements are what's expected at our level. The cost is that we lose access to the parts of our own thinking that are actually useful. So you can't think well in a voice that won't let us say, "I'm not sure yet." There's also the performance of energy. We arrive at every meeting with a kind of warm, capable presence. We're attentive, we're prepared, we're cheerful, but not too cheerful. We're managing the impression of someone who has plenty of capacity, even on days when we don't. The cost is that we can't be tired, we can't be flat, we can't have an off day, because off days don't fit the script. Then there's the performance of decisiveness. We make calls quickly, even on questions that would benefit from sitting with, because senior leaders are decisive, because hesitation reads as weakness. And the cost is that we sometimes lock in answers before they're ready, and then have to defend them, and then have to maintain the appearance of confidence in the decisions we're privately not sure about. And there's the performance of having it together emotionally. We don't show frustration, we don't show worry, we don't show the small daily wear of difficult work. We don't mention that we're tired, or that this stretch has been hard, or that we're processing something. We move through the day with a steady professional surface, and the cost is that we carry everything alone, and there's nowhere to put it down. So why do we do this? Well, the first answer is obvious. Corporate culture rewards a performance. There's a script for what a senior looks like, and the script doesn't include uncertain, processing, not quite ready yet. We've watched leaders who didn't perform get sidelined. We've been told sometimes explicitly that we need to project more confidence, more authority, more executive presence. The performance isn't paranoid, it's strategic. It's what has worked. The second answer is harder to see. We perform because somewhere along the way we became convinced that the performance is the leadership. Think about that for a second. Most of us came up watching senior leaders. We watched how they walked into rooms, how they spoke, how they handled disagreement, how they responded under pressure, and we learnt, mostly by osmosis, that this is what leadership looks like. So when we got the role, we did what they did. We adopted the posture and we put on the voice. We managed the impression and it worked. We got promoted, we got recognised, we were told that we'd grown into the role. So the performance got reinforced, and every time it worked, the message we received was, this is the right way for a leader to be. Keep doing it. I want to make a distinction here. How we show up is real. Presence, attention, the way we hold ourselves with our teams, all of that matters. We can't lead from disengagement. But what I am saying is there's something underneath that. The difference between bringing ourselves to the room and constructing a version of ourselves for the room. The first is presence and the second is performance. And only one of them is sustainable. And here's where it gets hard. The performance is so deeply entangled with the role at this point that to stop performing feels like stopping leading. The voice that rehearses the meeting at 4 a.m. isn't just protecting us, it's the voice that built our careers, and it's the version of us that earned the seat. Asking it to step back feels like asking ourselves to give up the very thing that's worked. The thing most of us don't see is that the performance has a real cost. The work of managing our emotional expression and of suppressing what we actually feel and presenting something else has been studied for decades. Psychologists call it emotion regulation. A certain amount is part of being a functioning adult. What we're talking about here is a sustained version, the kind that runs all day, every day for years. And what the research keeps showing about that is consistent. It depletes the same executive function we use for complex decisions, judgment, and creative thinking. It increases cardiovascular load. It correlates with burnout, decreased decision quality, and lowered trust from the people around us. When we perform, we're not just doing the work we're paid to do, we're also doing the work of managing how we appear while we do it. The second job is invisible, but it's real and it's expensive. Here's a tangible way to feel this. Think about the experience of having your photo taken. There's a moment when the photographer is taking longer than expected and you're holding the smile, and the smile starts to become work. The face begins to ache. Your expression looks held, not spontaneous. Anyone looking at that photo afterwards can tell the difference between a held smile and a real one. Now think about that, but happening for 8 or 9 hours a day, every day for years. That's the performance. And here's the thing. Performed leaders can struggle to lead with authenticity. Here's what we miss sometimes. People can feel the performance. They may not name it and they may not consciously notice it, but they register it. They register the gap between how we're presenting ourselves and who we actually are. And what that gap costs us over time is trust. Not in dramatic moments, but in small ones. The team that doesn't quite open up about what's really happening, or the peer who doesn't quite share the thing they were considering bringing, the board member who hears the update and quietly wonders what we're not telling them. None of these moments register as a crisis, but they slowly add up, and that is the cost. We can perform our way through most of our senior career, but we can't perform our way through the moments that matter most. The moments that define real leadership are the moments where the performance isn't enough. And here's the line I want you to hold from this episode. We can't be great leaders and great performers at the same time. At some point, we have to choose. So how do we start? Not with a grand gesture, and not by walking into our next executive meeting and announcing we're going to stop performing, because that's just another performance. Vulnerability theatre is still theatre. The work is smaller and more specific. The first move is to notice when we're performing. Just notice, no judgment. Through a typical day, catch yourself in the moments where you're putting on a face, modulating your voice or rehearsing a line, managing the impression. Most of these moments will surprise you. You'll realise you've been doing it everywhere. The greeting in the lift, the hello to a colleague, the briefing call you're about to step into. Don't try to stop it yet, just see it. The seeing is the work at first. Most of us perform without knowing we're performing. The first capacity to develop is the capacity to recognise it in ourselves. The second move is to find one small place to be unperformed. Not the boardroom and not a major presentation, somewhere safer. A one-on-one with a trusted direct report, a coffee with a peer, or a conversation with a mentor. Pick one place this week where you'll let yourself sound a little less polished, a little less certain, and a little more like the actual you. You might say, I don't know, instead of let me come back to you. You might say, I'm finding this stretch hard, instead of things are going well. Or you might pause when you would normally fill the silence with something. This could feel uncomfortable, like you're getting away with something. The voice in your head, the one that you've been managing how you come across for years, will start running. Did that sound okay? Was that the right amount of certainty? Should I have softened that? Did they notice? You're not getting away with anything. You're doing a different job. The job of being present rather than performing presence. The third move is to notice what changes. When we stop performing, even in small amounts, 3 things tend to happen. First, the people we're with respond differently. They lean in, they share more. Our nervous systems are tuned to read each other constantly. We pick up on emotional authenticity in milliseconds, often without realizing we're doing it. When the performance drops, the people around us register it, even if they can't name what's changed. Performance creates distance. Realness creates connection. Second is that our own thinking changes. We can access parts of our reasoning we couldn't access while we were managing our image. The cognitive load of performance is enormous, and when we put it down even briefly, we have more of ourselves available. Third, we become more tired in the moment, but less tired at the end of the day. Performance feels efficient, but it isn't. It's draining a reserve we can't quite see. Real presence is more demanding in the instant, but it recovers faster. The fourth move is the one that takes the longest. We have to change our relationship to the performance. Not erase it or pretend we never needed it. Just put it in its place. The performance has been our friend. It got us here. It earned us the role. It protected us in cultures that weren't safe for the unperformed version of us. So we're not going to disown it. We're going to stop letting it run our lives. This is harder than it sounds. There's something genuinely difficult about turning down the volume on a strategy that served us. We don't have to do this all at once. We don't have to do it perfectly. We don't have to do it in every meeting tomorrow. We just have to start seeing the performance for what it is. And in the moments when we can, choose something else. If you're at the threshold right now, here's a question I'd offer you. Where in the past week have you been performing? Not where have you been pretending or being inauthentic. Where have you been carrying yourself in a particular way? Modulating your voice, managing how you sound, working harder on the impression than the work itself. And the second question, what would it cost you this week to be 1 degree less performed in one specific conversation? Not all of them, maybe just one with someone you feel safe. What might it open up? You don't need to answer that today. Just sit with it. That's episode 3 of The Threshold. Next time, we'll talk about what happens at 5 a.m. The voice in your head before the day starts. The inner critic of leadership at the threshold. The rumination, the imposter narrative. And the science of why our brains run the inner court case in the first place. And what it actually takes to quieten it. If this episode landed, the most helpful thing you can do is share it with one person. Someone you know who's running the performance, who's tired in a way they don't have language for, and who could use the recognition that they're not alone in this. If you haven't already, follow the show wherever you're listening so the next episode finds you. And if you have the time, leave a review. Your review genuinely helps other leaders find this work. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you in 2 weeks.